frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everyone. Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Your turn to be the voice of the Marijuana Nation. The phone line is open at 971-533-7111. If you want to give us a call, we're here to talk. Been thinking a lot about race lately. That drug reform conference featured a Black Lives Matter town hall and numerous panels that brought up the plight of communities of color with respect to mass incarceration, the policing of the drug war, and so forth. And in hour 1, I talked a little bit about my ideas on how we might make reparations in the drug war. And it's kind of a controversial thing. Some people don't even like the idea. You bring up the word reparations and people get a little bristled, especially white folks sometimes get a little upset about that idea. But I don't see it as being a big problem. We gave the casinos to the Native Americans, right? Why'd we do that? Because, they have tribal sovereignty and we can't control whether or not, but yada, yada, yada. The real reason why we did it was white guilt. We did it because it's like, damn, we really sorry about that whole genocide thing. Here, how about some casinos, right? Help your reservations, help your tribes, raise some money. We'll give you the casinos. And you can argue all day that it's not even close to enough as far as destroying an entire race of people in multiple cultures and multiple languages, etc. Speaking of multiple languages, the last Navajo code talker died this weekend. The code talkers from World War II, where they spoke native Navajo code to each other. And it was the only code the Japanese and the Germans couldn't break because it was so, such a, rare language. Yeah, the last of those veterans died just this weekend. But, we gave the casino industry to the Indians. Most of it, not all of it. There's still Las Vegas, right? There's still Atlantic City. There's still some white guys that get to make money on casinos too, right? So why not set up a situation where we, in legalizing marijuana, find a way for it to more greatly benefit the communities of color that got devastated by the drug war in the first place? Because there's already going to be a problem. There's already going to be a problem when it comes to the hood. And the white folks been coming in from the suburbs to buy drugs from the kids in the hood for years, right? And that has been an economic engine for a lot of these impoverished areas. So what are those kids going to do when the very lucrative weed dealing jobs go away and become, bud tender jobs at legal pot shops? Sure, they could get those jobs, sure, but they're not going to pay as much. They're going to pay like a regular job would. So there's going to be this reduction of overall economic activity by legalizing marijuana. Because not only taking those jobs away, those illicit jobs away that are feeding some families, but also you crash the price of weed. So even somebody who's still dealing weed on the sly can't charge as much for it. So there's going to be this economic crash. How do we deal with that? What are we going to do to deal with that? Right? If the kid can't sell weed anymore, does he switch to selling harder drugs if we don't provide some other opportunity? Now, I offered some ideas, right? Number one, don't disqualify people for marijuana licenses based on a previous drug conviction. If anything, give them points for it, right? Now, I'm not talking about criminals, right? I'm not talking about people with, ill intent who've committed violent acts, etc., right? Who've defrauded people or, anything like that. But if the only thing you got on a guy is you caught him holding the bag, you busted him on some conspiracy charge or something, that guy ought to be at the front of the line to get the legal marijuana license. We want to move people out of the illicit market into the legal market. And maybe some percentage of the tax revenues that come from marijuana legalization should specifically be earmarked to communities of color that have been devastated by the over-policing in the drug war. On the other hand, does marijuana legalization have to solve everything? That might be the counter-argument. Like, isn't it enough that legalizing marijuana is going to end the disproportionate arrests? That it's going to help free more Black and Latino people? Does marijuana legalization have to solve racism and economic inequality and every other ill? Or should marijuana legalization stick to solving the problem of arresting people for marijuana? These are some interesting questions we'll be debating for sure. Five of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show.
The son of a Polish immigrant who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement, he went to public schools, then college, where the work of his life began, fighting injustice and inequality, speaking truth to power. He moved to Vermont, won election and praise as one of America's best mayors. In Congress, he stood up for working families and for principle, opposing the Iraq War, supporting veterans. Now he's taking on Wall Street and a corrupt political system, funded by over 1 million contributions, tackling climate change to create clean energy jobs, fighting for living wages, equal pay, and tuition-free public colleges.
People are sick and tired of establishment politics, and they want real change.
Bernie Sanders, husband, father, grandfather, an honest leader, building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Welcome back, everybody. 12 after the hour here at the Russ Belville Show's Toker Talk Radio. We've got plenty coming up for you. In the second half hour, we're going to talk a little bit about asset forfeiture and another report on the Ohio vote. Right now, discussing the idea of reparations in the war on marijuana. Don't screw Pookie over again. What can we do? Or should we do anything? Should marijuana legalization just stick to marijuana legalization? I think there's definitely a racial angle that we need to take a look at here when it comes to marijuana legalization. I think Dr. Alexander, I think Deborah Small, I think a lot of observers do have a valid point in this notion that we've had these laws, these drug war laws for 40 years, and this enforcement for 40 years, this war on drugs that has disproportionately impacted people of color. And to just end it and say, oh, well, now it's all legal, and then have white businessmen coming in and then dominating the market and profiting from it would be an injustice. Don't you think? Don't you think that's a little unjust? I think so. And we want to see the end of the drug war be a positive, a net positive for everyone in America, not just pot smokers, but also the communities that have been ravaged by the drug war. I mean, sure, there's a point to be made that marijuana legalization should be solely about the marijuana, who gets arrested for marijuana, and ending that. But there's so many collateral consequences of those marijuana arrests that lead to the devastation of neighborhoods that affect people that have nothing to do with marijuana. Doesn't matter, if you're a black kid growing up in an impoverished neighborhood, your parents might not smoke pot, you might not ever smoke pot, or do any other sort of drugs, but the fact that they've been illegal and disproportionately policed does impact you. So you can't choose to just not be a part of it. I mean, I didn't grow up in a situation where there were helicopters flying over at night and where cop cars were patrolling all the time. And if you looked the wrong way at the cop, they'd throw you up against the wall and stop and frisk you and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to deal with knowing which street to walk home on because you had to worry about where the gang was hanging out. I mean, you didn't have to worry about that car slowly approaching whether or not it was, getting ready to do a drive-by. So we need to understand that this is bigger than just, stopping the arrests. It's also about, dealing with the aftermath, dealing with the carnage that this drug war has wrought. But on the other hand, there's a part of me that doesn't like racially based public policy. Okay, that's overtly racially based. Things like affirmative action, busing, those kind of things. There's a part of me that bristles about that because I think there is some truth to the idea that so long as you're treating people differently based on race, you're exacerbating racism. Even if you're treating people differently based on race, trying to do it for a positive reason, to try to equalize things in some way, at its most core definition, racism is treating people differently because of race. So when conservatives make that point, I get where they're coming from, right? I've heard that line on Fox News. So my solution, I think, is on the right track. And that is to have licensing in marijuana, whether you be to be a licensed grower, a licensed processor, a licensed wholesaler, a licensed retailer. Set the regulations up, because usually these are merit-based. If it's going to be merit-based application, I would much prefer merit-based as preferred to lottery, right? But if it's going to be some merit-based application that gives points based on the previous criminal record or previous criminal interaction when it came to the war on drugs. By doing it this way, by saying, hey, if you were busted for possession, then you get 10 points. If you were busted for cultivation, you get 50 points. If you did time, you get 100 points per year. Whatever it might be. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but some sort of point system based on how much prohibition impacted your life. Now, of course, we're not going to, let's disqualify violent guys and liars and thieves and, real bad people. But if it was just, you were a part of the marijuana market that happened to be illegal at the time, let's give you some points for that. And let's put those people at the front of the line to get the licensing. Now, the nice thing about this is it's not directly racially based. Jeff Mazansky, some guy who did 22 years in prison for marijuana trafficking for a third strike, he'd get a whole ton of points and could get a marijuana license, right? White guy. But it wouldn't be directly racially based, but it would have the effect of mitigating some of the racist aspect of the war on drugs, because disproportionately more Black and Latino people would have those criminal records that get you those extra points. Maybe that's a way to look at it. Now, I can already poke some holes in that, like it kind of rewards people who got busted, right? So, like, if you got busted, doesn't that mean you were maybe you were unlucky, but also maybe you weren't as smart as the other people involved in the trade, right? So in a sense, maybe you're rewarding incompetence in a sense, right? How would you the people that didn't get caught, perhaps, the 30-year pot-growing families in Humboldt County, why should they be further behind in line for getting a license than some guy that grew in his closet, was stupid, and got busted? So, right, I'm not trying to say this is perfect, but maybe this is a direction we start to look if we're really serious about coming up with some sort of reparations when it comes to the war on drugs. And then the other possibility is, a lot of these places are going to have a cap on licenses when they legalize. Like the Nevada thing is so many licenses per population, right? So it ends up you get like 80 licenses in Clark County and like 6 or 10 in the Reno, Clark County, or the Washoe County, I should say. And then like 1 or 2 everywhere else. Well, maybe those licenses ought to be distributed to people based on the disproportionality of the enforcement there. Like, if they were arresting 60% of the people in that county were the ones that were getting arrested were Black people getting arrested for marijuana, then give out 60% of the licenses to Black people. That's got its problems too. Who's exactly Black? Do you have to prove you referenced that on the census at some point that you were self-identifying as Black? Does Rachel Dolezal get a license? I mean, there's still some problems with that too. It's not going to be an easy thing to discuss. It's not going to have some real easy cut and dry sort of lines for us to work on, but I think it's a concept worth discussing. How can we end the war on drugs in a way that best benefits the communities that were devastated by the war on drugs? Something to consider. We'll keep talking about it as the week goes on.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You can try, Hal. Think hard, Hal. It's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone. It's great to be back in my home time zone where 4:20 comes at the time it's supposed to come. Although, really, does 4:20 ever come at a bad time for you? Not me. We got the strong silicone glow in the dark bong and some good Panacea Chem Valley weed tested at 19.56% THC.
Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your Cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com, with years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com.
Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Roots Monday, featuring the blues, country, folk, and jazz music that birthed the modern sounds we enjoy today. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
Oh, yeah, back home for some Daily Toker Tunes, and Mr. Portland himself is on the line. We got Bacon Dan. How you doing, Bacon Dan?
I am doing very good, man. I'm recovering still from the awesome Timbers win last night, but yeah, and my Bills play tonight, so I can't complain.
Oh, the Bills Patriots is tonight. That's right. Oh, please win.
That's the goal.
That's always the goal. Hey, so what does this mean for our Major League Soccer Portland Timbers? This is the playoffs, isn't it?
It is. This is the Western Conference Finals, and we killed Dallas 3-1 last night, right from the start. Very aggressive playing. So now we go to Dallas on Friday, and with a tie or a win, we go to the MLS Finals, hopefully against a very strong Columbus, who beat out New York Red Bulls 2-0 last night.
I see. So they got the same situation. They need a win or a tie to move on?
Exactly.
Right on. All right. So, wow, could be Columbus and Portland fighting for the Major League Soccer Championship. This would be a first for Portland, wouldn't it?
It would, and I'll tell you what, we're looking strong enough, and the support last night at the game, and my God, it was freezing cold, but nobody left until, every player was off the field, and we cheered them so hard. It was just so good.
How exciting. All right, big things happening here in Portland. Of course, the NBA is starting up. Portland Trail Blazers have been playing a few games, recently beat the Lakers. That's good. That's always good here in Portland.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And you've got the Karaoke from Hell going on tonight at Dante's downtown, I understand?
I do, and we are doing an earlier show tonight, so it's going to be starting at 9:30 for anybody listening in the greater Portland area.
All right, check that out. Dante's downtown at 3rd and West Burnside, and the Who's the Ross program also going on. Tell folks about the next showing for Who's the Ross.
So we will be on this Tuesday at Dante's with our annual turkey show. I believe we'll be bringing back our character of Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Turkey, a dead-on impersonation that Aaron does of the Daniel Day-Lewis character. So it should be really good. And then before too long, our annual Tatas for Toys show, where we raise money for Dornbecker's Children's Hospital, will be coming up in December. Last year, we raised $3,000 to buy toys for the kids. So this year, we're going to hopefully break that.
You guys, check it out. If you're here in the Portland area on a Monday or a Tuesday night, just go on down to Dante's downtown, visit with Bacon Dan, no matter what's happening, and afterwards you can just walk across the street and get a Voodoo Donut, and you can erase everything off your Portland bucket list in one stop.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so Dan, tell us about today's Roots Monday tune, a good classic punk band for us.
Yeah, so this week we've got Poison Heart by the Ramones. This is definitely a different sound for them, a different pace to the normal kind of Ramones song. It was written by the ex-bassist Dee Dee Ramone, who we all know had his own issues. And basically, this song was written for the band in exchange for bailing him out of jail. This was on the Pet Sematary 2 soundtrack. I personally love this song. It's just a really fun song. It's one that we're actually working on trying to get on to Karaoke from Hell.
Oh, very good. All right. And for folks, if you don't know, Karaoke from Hell is karaoke done with a live band. And what they've got, how many tracks now that they cover?
Almost 600.
Almost 600. That's an amazing cover band, man. You got to check that out. All right. Going on tonight, 9:30 at Dante's downtown, West Burnside and 3rd. And Bacon Dan will be down there. Give him your name. He'll get you on stage. This is the Ramones with Poison Heart. Dan, thanks for calling in, and we'll see you later.
Sounds good, buddy.
Like it in a dream, I never let 'cause everybody has a poison heart, 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 a poison heart.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com, and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details. The Fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
Step into the future every Tuesday night with Electric Bob's Boogaloo, our weekly electronic music jam. Electric Bob brings you the latest house, trance, dubstep, and other electronic music from the freshest DJs and producers. It's every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, with replays weekends at 11 p.m. on 420radio.org.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R. That's Karcher Insurance. We have worked with ventures like cannabis for over 60 years. We're proud to represent over 50 companies with tailor-made cannabis plans for owners just like you to insure your product, your plants, and your pursuits. K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R spells out their full-service insurance services, ranging from commercial to bonds to personal, from life to health, and more. Contact the team at KarcherInsurance.com and let our experience work for you. That's K-A-E-R-C-H-E-R Insurance.com.
Contact Karen and the team at Karcher Insurance at 1-844-421-3560. That's 844-421-3560.
Welcome back, everybody. 33 after the hour here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon, where it is cold and rainy. We are definitely in late November, and quite a change of pace from the sunny and warm mid-80 degree days in Jamaica a couple weeks ago. It was even nice in D.C. while I was there. Got a chance to go to the National Mall. I visited the museum. No, not the museum, the newseum. Like, as in news museum. Yes, they have a news museum. It's amazing. I recommend it highly if you go to Washington, D.C. Of course, I do most everything highly. But definitely worth checking out. There's an exhibit there of some of the, well, all of the Pulitzer Prize-winning photographs and the stories behind them. It just take your breath away. And some of them you recognize, like the flag at Iwo Jima and so forth. But some of them I had never seen before, and they were just compelling as hell. An exhibit on 9/11, an exhibit on the Berlin Wall with actual, 12-foot tall chunks of the Berlin Wall, all graffitied up on the west side and completely clean on the east side. Very interesting. There was an exhibit on the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and how it was like one of the first breaking news events since telegraph finally made it possible to get news faster than sending it on a piece of paper on a boy on a horse to get to the news desk. You could actually telegraph it. There was a display on the reporting of the Vietnam War, how it changed and shaped the fighting there as Americans got to see the bloodshed on their televisions live for the first time ever. It was an amazing place, and it was very fun to go there. I also had the chance to go to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. See, I've been to the National Mall a couple times, so I've already done like the Capitol and the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. So this Vietnam Wall, definitely the Vietnam Wall you have to see. But this time I went to the Martin Luther King Memorial, kind of across the street from the mall by the water. And just what an elegant memorial. The beautiful block sculpture of Martin Luther King and some of his select quotes on the wall behind him. And it was just very, very touching. And it reminds me that back at the museum, there was another exhibit, which was Civil Rights at 50, which described how the news covered the emerging civil rights movement up through the Bloody Sunday March on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965. And there was something there that just really brought it all home to me. And it was a cast iron replica of the jail cell door from the Birmingham jail that Dr. Martin Luther King sat in, and of course wrote his treatise, Letter from a Birmingham Jail, that I quote extensively in a lot of my writings when I talk about unjust laws and why we fight against marijuana prohibition. We fight against the drug war because we have a moral obligation to disobey unjust laws, and that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, that we have to fight these laws, even if they don't directly or proportionally affect us. So the jail cell door is there, and it's the replica of his jail cell. And it was interesting to me because I've been to jail, and I'd never experienced a door like that, a jail with actual bars and the little slot, where you put the tray through for lunch and such. I've always been in jails that had, just metal doors and plexiglass and concrete, modern jails. But this is a replica of a, 1950s jail. And I placed my hands on the bars, and the bars weren't completely cylindrical either. They had kind of like a ridge on either side of the bar, 180 degrees opposed. I kind of run my fingers up and down this ridge, and I'm feeling the cold bars and how solid they are. And it just hit me all at once to think that, that's what Dr. King might have done. Felt those same kind of bars and worried about his wife and his kids, under the threat of, possible attack, at these times when they were fighting for these things. And it got to me all at once. And it was just an amazing feeling, amazing revelation and understanding. The longer I do this, the more I feel this legalization thing, this marijuana legalization thing, this drug war in general, and even broader beyond the drug war, the drug testing and even more than that, the pharmaceutical industry and prisons and mass incarceration and prison labor and asset forfeiture and all these things that just become too big to bear. It's just, how is this not the civil rights struggle of our time? How is this not something that everybody from the left or from the right, or for no political ideology whatsoever, can't see as the most un-American thing, one of the most un-American things we're engaged in? It's really starting to blend for me. I'm really starting to feel it as bigger than just whether or not you can smoke a joint to get high and not get busted. It's so much bigger than that. And I hope you feel that too as you're listening. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio. I'm Radical Russ here at CannabisRadio.com, and I wanted to bring up one of these points about the drug war, and that is asset forfeiture. And there's an interesting story out that came from The Forecaster, a blog out there that noted some of the figures in our war on drugs. And we've talked about asset forfeiture on this show before, and of course asset forfeiture is when the cops say that you committed a crime. In fact, they don't even really have to say you committed a crime, but they can take your money and your assets, your car, your home, based on the theory that it is illegal. It created a crime. It caused a crime. You bought your car thanks to the proceeds of illegal activity. And then the car or the house or the cash goes on trial. Literally, you have cases, the United States versus $533,000 in cash. As if the cash could testify or, but really, it's literally a charge against the property, and the property is guilty until proven innocent. How much more un-American can you get, right? Guilty until proven innocent. You got to prove that it's innocent. And this is civil forfeiture. This isn't criminal we're talking about. This isn't you committed a crime and then they took your stuff. This is civil. They don't even have to prove you committed a crime. You don't have to be arrested for anything. This civil forfeiture laws are allowing cops to take your house because, your kid had a heroin problem. We found some heroin in the house. Bah, drug dealer, illegal proceeds. We're going to take your house. Or take your car. Pull you over. You got too much cash on you? We'll take the cash. Thanks very much. We'll take the car too because we found some seeds and stems. Hell, sometimes they don't even find anything. They just find a whole bunch of cash and they say, well, because you have so much cash, you obviously must be a drug dealer. Couldn't be that you won the lottery. Couldn't be that it's money for a down payment for something or anything like that. No, you have to be a criminal. So, when we take a look at some of the statistics for last year, for crime, for burglary, the total in the United States for burglary, criminals stealing your stuff, was $3.9 billion with a B. $3.9 billion worth of stuff that criminals stole last year. U.S. law enforcement officials, asset forfeiture, $4.5 billion last year. The cops took more property from Americans than the burglars did in 2014. The cops are stealing more than the criminals. Now, the criminal side doesn't include larceny, doesn't include embezzlement, right? We're just talking about burglars stealing your stuff, right? So that would affect it a little bit. But also, the $4.5 billion is after they make payouts to the victims, right? And we're including Bernie Madoff, right? That whole Ponzi scheme guy. He was $1.7 billion of it. So, there are some caveats. But the cops are stealing more from the people than the criminals are. If that's not an indictment in our system, I don't know what is.
America's RR7 secret agent of progressive change.
The name's Belville. Russ Belville.
This is the Russ Belville Show.
Thanks for listening to us live here on CannabisRadio.com. All you live listeners, make sure you stay tuned because coming up at the top of the hour, Stoner Jesus here will bless you with all his stony goodness and benevolence. Stoner Jesus here on Cannabis Radio Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. I'm sorry. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I've been in too many time zones, man. Hey, we'll be right back to wrap things up with our tinfoil hat segment. Was Ohio's pot vote stolen?
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
MJWellness.com, the largest medical marijuana community in the world. Connect with thousands of patients, doctors, industry leaders, and businesses through shared personal experiences along our worldwide network. Discover new therapies and benefits with content tailored to you. Come grow your network on MJWellness.com. You're not alone. Your wellness matters. Learn, live, and thrive. Check out MJWellness.com today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Wrapping things up here on the Russ Belville Show's Toker Talk Radio. Going back to Ohio for just a moment here, where there's a new post up on Alternet. Expert says Ohio's vote against pot legalization was statistically impossible. The conclusion that the vote was stolen is almost inescapable. Now, this comes from Ron Byman, the assistant professor of graduate business administration at Benedictine University. He teaches economics and statistics there. The Columbus Free Press asked him to calculate the odds of the official vote count for issue 3. Now remember, issue 3 lost by about 2-1. It was 65-35 that it lost by. Compared to the tracking polls that showed that it was almost a tie or more likely a win for Ohio issue 3. Ron Byman said, quote, "The results are not only impossible, but unfathomable." So the reason being is he says that the undecided voters should have broken 50-50. Half would vote no, half would vote yes. And that the referendum, the chances of it losing 2-1 are 1 in a million. Showed that even if you assumed every single undecided voter in the polls voted against issue 3, it's still statistically impossible to accept the official Secretary of State tally, according to this professor. He cites a couple of pre-election tracking polls, Zogby's poll, which showed a where is that result? Yeah, so it showed that it was going to be a close win. There was also a poll done by the Kitchen Group that showed a close election. And they're doubting now that you could have such a result, a 2-1 loss, when the polls were showing about a 50-50 vote. I don't know. I think it's possible. I think it's possible because the polls don't necessarily, when they say likely voters versus people who really go out and vote, that could shape it. I don't know. It's worth investigation, but I think you need a little bit more than referring to a couple of polls. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, so we'll keep our eye on it. But folks, that's all the time we got for today. We got to get out of here early so that we can clean up the studio for Stoner Jesus. He's coming up at the top of the hour to bless you with stony goodness. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Mickey Norris has been an activist for drug policy reform since 1989, when she formed the American Hemp Council, along with her husband, Chris Conrad. In 1993, she and Chris moved to Amsterdam to design exhibits for and curate the Hash Marijuana Hemp Museum. As Community Action Coordinator for Californians for Medical Rights, she helped organize petitioners to qualify the Medical Marijuana Initiative Proposition 215 for the 1996 ballot. Mickey has co-authored the books Shattered Lives, Portraits from America's Drug War, and Human Rights and the U.S. Drug War, and sponsors the website www.hr95.org. Mickey was instrumental in the recent passage of municipal ordinances in Santa Cruz, Santa Monica, and Santa Barbara. And it's my pleasure to welcome her to the Audio Stash today. Mickey Norris, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you.
Mickey, you've been out on the front lines of what was a lot of success last week. First, tell us about the importance of these municipal initiatives.
Well, on Tuesday, we were very excited to see that the voters affirmed what we were working on for the last year and a half, which makes their initiatives that make marijuana offenses law enforcement's lowest priority. They have a little bit different twist for each town. We did this in Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz, and they won overwhelmingly, so, we're just so excited.
Now, what is it about these deprioritization ordinances that can really have immediate positive impact on the communities that pass them?
These are measures that protect the rest of us. I mean, medical marijuana is a provision for a certain class of people. This is for a broader class of people, for adults, all adults, that will hopefully stop the arrest, prosecution, and incarceration in Santa Monica and Santa Barbara for personal adult use, but in Santa Cruz for all marijuana offenses. The significance is that we're hoping to get our message across that this has been the marijuana war, as it's being operated and put forth, is a waste of our resources, of law enforcement resources, when they have many other things on their plates, lots of violent and serious crime out there that they should be dealing with, that marijuana offenders are not the problem and they shouldn't be concentrating any of the resources or tax dollars on it. I think that message really resonated with the voters on Tuesday.
And when we talk about deprioritization, this is a directive to law enforcement. Some of these included an oversight committee. Where does that idea come from?
That came from, a lot of these, this whole effort generated from not only Seattle's I-75 that passed in 2003, but Oakland's Measure Z, which passed in 2004. They both include some oversight, because you can't just pass these things and let them be. You have to make sure that they are implemented so that we actually can track whether or not we have stopped the arrest and prosecution and incarceration of these people. So it came from the idea that the measure needs some oversight to make sure that the cities are in compliance and that the police are following the policy.
Mickey, much of the law enforcement community's opposition in California was centered on statements that they don't really arrest recreational marijuana smokers anyway. Is that true? Do cops in California really turn the other way when they see someone smoking a joint?
If you look at the arrest statistics, people are still getting arrested. There are a few hundred in Santa Cruz and Santa Monica. I believe Santa Barbara also had a couple hundred arrests. So it means that every time that they're arresting somebody for a marijuana offense, this officer is not available for the other offenses like domestic violence or robberies or, more serious crimes than that even. So we found that while they may be low priorities, they're not the lowest. And in our thinking, any amount of money being spent on prosecuting these nonviolent marijuana offenders is a waste of resources. And these cities are hurting for money in their budgets at this time. So we're helping them to codify this into a policy. I know many of the police departments have said, it's already a low priority, we're not doing it. But when you look at the statistics, and that's what we're hoping to also find out with the oversight of the implementation, is how many people are being arrested how many people have been arrested, and how old are these people, what is their race. We hope to find out if there's any racial profiling going on in these communities, if there's certain targeted groups. We should find that kind of information out. I think it's going to be real useful overall for our efforts, and also just to track the kinds of arrests that are still happening.
Mickey, it strikes me that these ordinances create an important liaison between the community and law enforcement. It's a level of interaction the rest of us do not enjoy as far as oversight with our local police.
Well, we've included them in the implementation side of things because we think that it's important to get their input so that they're on the same page with us. Unfortunately, during the campaign, and especially in Santa Monica, the police did come out opposing it. They didn't put as much of their money behind it as we were expecting, fortunately, in Santa Monica, which ended up coming up with our highest vote of all the initiatives. We were really surprised by that because they did express their concerns. There was some hostility in the local newspaper in Santa Monica, and the elected officials were a little bit nervous about coming out in support. So we did this, really passed it with the support of the community and the voters from the bottom up rather than the top down. But we do welcome the police to come to the table and express their concerns, and we want to work with them to come up with good guidelines that'll work for the city to help them do their job, because we're in favor of police doing their job and going after violent and serious criminals. We just don't want them wasting their time going after nonviolent marijuana offenders.
Also, Mickey, you've been a leading activist for 15 years in California, and during this election, a lot has been made on the broader gains of women getting elected this midterm election season. But in speaking with Laura, Kate, and Nikki there in California and Angela Goodhope in Missoula, is this an important new trend for women in politics and for women to be the face of the initiatives, to be leaders in grassroots activism?
I hope so. These are the people who stepped up to the plate in our campaigns. I'm real excited to up and down the board. We had all of our campaign coordinators were women, and mostly young women in their 20s. And our political consultants, Susan Stevenson from the Next Generation Political Consulting Group, who also did Measure Z in Oakland, oversaw the whole California effort. I consulted with Susan and assisted her in the efforts. And Barbara Grover, a political consultant from Santa Monica area, also oversaw that one. I'm real excited about women taking the lead. I think maybe it was helpful in putting out another face. Hearing this message from women, and I'll tell you, is very important because we are perceived as people who are concerned about our families and our communities and want the best for everybody and nurturing and the whole compassionate thing. But I'll tell you, these women are so competent. It was really an honor and a privilege working with them, and I'm very excited about more women getting on board with this effort.
It is an energizing group, Mickey. All of these coordinators are so articulate and passionate about the issue. Also, the initiatives there in California all passed with over 60% of the vote. Was that level of support a surprise or expected?
It did surprise me with the level of support, although I have a new respect for polling. I must say that our polls showed that they were going to come out with very favorable votes. I was very nervous about Santa Monica because it was a real challenge to get our endorsements there, and it was and because of the opposition by the Police Officers Association, that seemed to influence some of the elected officials. But our polling was positive in all three areas. So I was most surprised by the Santa Monica vote. But Santa Barbara is considered to be a little bit more conservative than the other areas, and they came up almost 65% too. So that was really a pleasant surprise, although the people who lived there weren't as surprised as those of us who are from the outside of that area. they seem to know their community well enough, and they said, we want to do it here because we think it could pass, and that passed with almost just about 65%.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting